Hey guys, Non-Zero here, coach of the Pittsburgh Celesteelas, bringing you my Week 8 team builder and match analysis for the DGBA. So my opponent this week, the St. Louis Rampardos, is rocking a draft that contains Charizard X. And that's kind of all that matters here, because Charizard X just completely decimates my team. It doesn't only break through my Skarmory plus Goodra core, it just blows that core back. It can OHKO pretty much everything on my team at +1. It doesn't even need +2. And so, considering that, I kind of had to build my team around not letting this mon set up, for one, and two, if it does manage to set up, have some emergency sort of ways of counterplay so that I just don't lose on the spot. My opponent doesn't actually only have that mon, he also has 10 other mons that he might bring, but to be honest, those are kind of irrelevant. Like, okay, he's probably going to bring something like Celesteela, Garchomp, probably Thundurus, Amoonguss, and possibly the Reuniclus, or maybe the Seismitoad. I also think maybe something like the Hitmontop is a possibility as a means of hazard control, because otherwise my opponent doesn't really have any hazard control. Yeah, there's no way he's bringing Defog on his Charizard X. He's definitely going to be packing Dual Stabs, definitely going to be packing Dragon Dance, and then his last move is going to be either Roost or Substitute. That would be my guess. I'm not sure which he's going to go for, but I mean, honestly, he doesn't need any coverage to blow the rest of my team back. Any case, let's just go ahead and jump into the squad that I've whipped up for this matchup, which is really going to be a tough one. And the first mon is going to be Mega Gyarados, my boy Dragon. So as scary as Mega Charizard is for my draft, my Mega Gyarados is almost as scary for his draft. He does have a couple of answers, a couple of things that can, tank a hit if I've Dragon Danced a couple of times and sort of try to deal with me. Those mainly being his Amoonguss and potentially his Seismitoad, but to be honest, this thing really can just run through his team. He does not have the best answers to a Mega Gyarados once it's set up. So I'm bringing just a Dragon Dance, Substitute, Crunch, and Waterfall set. So the idea behind Substitute is that Celesteela can tank a hit, but it probably can't do much back. Even a Giga Drain is not going to be able to break my sub because of Gyarados' amazing Spidef, unless the Celesteela is offensive. But in that case, he's not going to be taking my attacks too well. And also, the Substitute just dodges things like a potential Spore from Amoonguss or a potential Leech Seed from Celesteela. So that's the idea behind Substitute. And Crunch and Waterfall, it was kind of tough picking two moves here. I kind of swapped between having Ice Fang instead of one of those two moves. Ice Fang to knock out the Garchomp at +1. But I ended up going for just Crunch and Waterfall. I felt that both dual stabs were kind of necessary here. And I also didn't want to unnecessarily risk the chance of Ice Fang missing and just ending my sweep right there. Of course, Mimikyu can't really revenge this thing because at +1, I can Mold Brick or knock it out through its disguise. So that's an important point there. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into my second pick, which is going to be, of course, the Zygarde. So just like last match, we are going with double Dragon Dancers here. The same sort of idea. If one of them can manage to wear down my opponent, then the other one can sweep later on. You'll notice that this one also has Substitute. This one's just rocking Adamant Nature. The speed is there so that I can outrun at +2 a Choice Scarf Thundurus, which is the best that I can hope for. At +1, I already outspeed all non-Scarfers. And other than that, these two attacks here just nail basically everything on this team. 1000 Arrows takes care of the Celesteela, the Thundurus, and the Charizard even pre-Mega, and the Minior. It's just such a good move against this draft. And Outrage basically hits the Garchomp is the main thing it's there for. Of course, I don't want to click Outrage while Mimikyu is still in the back if he chooses to bring that, because I would be giving that thing a free Swords Dance potentially, so I do have to watch out for that. Mainly, I think I'll just be clicking 1000 Arrows with this thing if I manage to get it safely Dragon Dance up a couple of times. Alright, so these are my two Dragon Dancers, but the thing is there are not too many things on my opponent's side that they can safely set up on. And that's where the next mon comes in. The next mon's going to be Mew, a light clay Mew, max speed, max HP, just for some bulk, with Reflect, Light Screen, Taunt, and Explosion. So what's the idea behind this Mew set? The idea behind this Mew set is to, at some point in the match, where I think that if I were able to Dragon Dance up with my Gyarados or my Zygarde, they would have a good chance of winning. At that point is when I would bring my Mew in, set up a Light Screen or Reflect, maybe both, Explode to get on out of there, and then bring in either my Gyarados or my Zygarde and proceed to Dragon Dance up. And so that's this Mew set. It's really meant as a support set, and it is able to get up screens on most things. Of course, you might think that having a totally passive mon is kind of bad because it's something that the Charizard might be able to set up on, and as I said in the beginning, I really can't give that mon an opportunity to set up. But that's where Taunt comes in. I can either, in that situation, depending on what I think is best, I can either set up a Reflect as he Dragon Dances up, meaning that he'd have to get to +4 in order to get to the equivalent of +1, or I can Taunt, or I can Explode, depending on what the situation calls for. Explosion does a very good chunk to the Charizard. It does like around 60%, depending on how it's invested. So I can definitely see this mon putting a lot of work mid to late game, where I just needed to be able to allow one of my two sweepers to Dragon Dance up safely. Because if both Reflect and Light Screen are up, then there's not much that my opponent can do to stop either of my Dragon Dancers from sweeping. For example, Amoonguss doesn't break either Gyarados' nor Zygarde's subs if a Light Screen is up, so I would just be able to sub and Dragon Dance up on Amoonguss, and that goes the same basically for all the rest of his mons. Kind of the exception is Reuniclus because he could be boosting alongside me, which is definitely scary, but that's another case of where Taunt comes in. Alright, let's go ahead and move into the fourth mon on this team, which is going to be Celesteela Jr., my Skarmory. Rocking a Rocky helmet this week, just a max HP, max defense set, kind of meant to take on Garchomp is the idea behind this thing. I know that Garchomp can run Fire Blast sometimes, but that's not too big of an issue, and really it's Scarf Garchomp that I'm most scared of anyways. So yeah, this Celesteela just meant to take physical hits. It can also take on mons like the Mimikyu, and it can win the Hazard War versus the Hitmontop and the Armaldo as well. So just running a pretty standard set. Toxic, Stealth Rock, Whirlwind, and Roost. Now Whirlwind is there because hopefully I'm able to keep this thing at sturdy, and if that's the case, then I have an emergency stop to any Charizard sweep. I can just send this thing in after something dies, click Whirlwind. If my opponent Flare Blitzes me, brings me down to sturdy, then he'll be doing like 35 to 40% to himself, plus taking Rocky Helmet damage, plus all of Whirlwinded him out of there. So that's all very good. That means he'll be at around half, which is actually pretty important considering one of the mons coming up on this team. In any case, let's go ahead and jump into the fifth mon on this team, which is going to be my Gengar. Now Gengar is another one of those emergency checks to a +1 Charizard Mega. So what can Gengar do? So this max speed, max attack Gengar does about 60+% with the Sludge Wave. So if the Charizard's in range of Sludge Wave, I can just click that. If it's not in range of Sludge Wave, I also have Destiny Bond as an option if things just totally get out of hand. However, I don't really anticipate clicking Destiny Bond because that's of course risking something like a Substitute or another Dragon Dance, and I don't want to put myself in that situation. But if I absolutely need to, if all of my other ways of dealing with +1 Charizard are gone for one reason or another, then I can bring this thing in and try to get off a Destiny Bond. But in any case, the rest of these moves are just to hit the rest of his team. Shadow Ball hitting the Mimikyu as well as the Reuniclus, and Hidden Power Ice exclusively for that Garchomp. After a bit of prior damage, Hidden Power Ice actually just straight knocks out the Garchomp, which is pretty solid. In any case, this is going to be my Gengar set. Now, one of the cool things about this Gengar is it synergizes really nicely with the Mew, because the things that my opponent might think about bringing into this Gengar, those being the Celesteela and potentially especially defensive Amoonguss, are both mons that my Mew can set up screens on, and then both mons that once screens are up, both my Gyarados and my Zygarde can Dragon Dance up on. So there's some pretty solid synergy in that way. If my Gengar forces a switch into one of those mons, then I can proceed to go out into Mew, set up my screens, and then do some serious work with one of my sweepers. In any case, let's go ahead and jump into the final mon on this team, and that is going to be the obligatory Lieutenant Surge, my boy Tapu Koko, rocking a Life Orb. I was initially going to be running a Choice Scarf, but the extra power actually turned out to make a good deal of difference. With the extra power, I 100% knock out a Charizard if it's already taken, say, either the Flare Blitz Recoil plus Rocky Helmet from Skarmory, or if it's taken a round of rocks in Mega form. Now, my opponent might think that Tapu Koko is potentially a mon that they're able to set up with their Charizard on, but it's actually not because of Hidden Power Rock. Now, what Choice Scarf would have been able to do for me is, of course, it would have been able to outspeed a +1 Charizard, but I really do think that the extra damage is just more valuable here. I think that, so if you'll notice, the theme to this team is really that his Charizard can't set up freely on any 6 of my mons, right? It can't set up on the Gyarados, it can't set up on the Zygarde, it can't really set up on the Mew. It can try to set up on the Mew, but in that case I'll just get a Reflect Up and then explode, and it won't be doing much to my team. It can't set up on the Skarmory, I'll just Whirlwind it out of there. Can't set up on the Gengar because Sludge Wave is a 2-hit KO, and it can't set up on this Tapu Koko because of Hidden Power Rock. And so that's really how this team was built. It was built so that Mega Charizard doesn't get an opportunity to set up. Other than that, the rest of his team I'll just sort of try to handle. Of course, another reason that my last mon was his Tapu Koko, in addition to giving me momentum so that I can potentially U-turn into something like the Mew, set up screens, or even just straight into one of my Dragon Dance sweepers, is also that I needed something to deal with the Celesteela. Otherwise, Celesteela has a decent chance to just take on my team defensively, and I have some difficulties breaking through it if it's just like a Leech Seed sub Protect Heavy Slam set or something like this. But even those, I do have some backup options for because I have Substitute on both my Zygarde and my Gyarados. But in any case, that is going to be the team. I was also considering bringing mons like, for example, Infernape, because Infernape does a lot offensively if it was carrying, say, an Expert Belt set with Flare Blitz, Close Combat, Hidden Power Ice, and U-Turn or something like this. I felt like these 6 mons gave me the best forms overall of counterplay against the Charizard, and I hope that this squad is able to put in the work when it comes to this matchup. I do think this matchup could very well come down to which one of us is able to get our Dragon Dance threat in and just start setting up and blowing the other team back. But in any case, I'm looking forward to the match. It's definitely going to be a very tough match, and one that I'm going to have to play very carefully if I don't want to just get swept. So in any case, I will be right back, letting you know how the match went. We are back with the match. My opponent deciding to bring a team of Garchomp, Amoonguss, Celesteelas, Seismitoad, Thundurus, and the threat, my boy Charizard X. So let's go ahead and see what happens in the matchup. I lead off here with my Tapu Koko. My rationale here is that I don't want to lead off right up with my Mew and try to get screens up or anything. One, because I want that to be more of a late game win con type deal, and two, because what the electric terrain does is it means that his Amoonguss can never Spore me later, as long as it's up, and also it accounts for the possibility of him potentially leading Thundurus against what might be a Stealth Rock Mew or Skarmory lead, and then having Taunt to shut me down. In any case, he is going to lead right off with the threat itself, Charizard, and I was really conflicted turn 1. I kind of wanted to go for the Hidden Power Rock, just get off a really nice chunk, put him in range of Sludge Wave, put him in range of his own Flare Blitz recoil, put him in range of all sorts of things. But I decided actually turn 1 to go for a U-turn. And that was a couple of reasons. I didn't want to give him a free switch into his Garchomp was the main thing, which I thought might be a play that he makes turn 1. But it turns out that he just stayed in turn 1, and given that he stayed in on my Tapu Koko, I didn't think that he would go for the Outrage play, or the Dragon Claw play, because, of course I'm a Tapu Koko, and I'm not really going to be switching into my Zygarde. Like, that would be a pretty silly switch in because I don't even outspeed him. So in any case, I'm just going to go right here into the Dragon, my Gyarados, get the Intimidate off, and then hopefully with this bulk I can take the Flare Blitz pretty well, as I do. Based on the damage, he's running actually more of a bulky Charizard set, which is actually kind of better for me. It means that I'll be able to set up screens potentially on this thing later. And it also means that I'm just able to take hits from it better in general, so. This turn I go ahead and go for the Dragon Dance. And I go ahead and Mega Evolve here and go for the Dragon Dance. Now in retrospect, I probably should have stayed in regular here, because that would have made sure that if his Celesteela is carrying Giga Drain, it wouldn't break my sub. It would have also given me a chance to not have my sub broken by a Mungus depending on his spread. But in any case, I am going to go ahead and Mega Evolve, go for the Dragon Dance here. I would have had to Mega Evolve shortly anyway in order to just get the power I need to knock stuff out. So it didn't end up making too much of a difference, but in any case, he is going to bring in his Garchomp, as this is a perfect opportunity for me to get a second Dragon Dance off. And now, at this range, I do knock out his Garchomp if it's offensive. If it's defensive, I don't knock it out. I would have knocked it out with Ice Fang, but obviously I'm not packing Ice Fang. So at this point, I do decide just to go for the Waterfall for damage. I didn't want anything funny to happen, like Garchomp I know gets access to Roar, for example, so if he was packing that, then I wanted to at least get some damage off. So that's why I didn't go for another Dragon Dance here, I just go straight for the Waterfall. And in fact, it does knock him out, which lets me know that the Garchomp was indeed offensive, as now he's going to bring his Amoonguss in. So at this point, I go for the Crunch, and I'm just trying to get some damage off. I know that this is not going to be a one-shot. It is going to be a solid 2-hit KO at this range, however, assuming, of course, that he's not just like some random offensive Amoonguss. And so I go for the Crunch on his Amoonguss, expecting the 2-hit KO, and I get a critical hit. So that is really unfortunate for my opponent. That's more or less just the game there, because at this point, there's not so much my opponent can do. Since I'm still behind my sub, he can't break the sub with anything except for the Seismitoad potentially, because everything else is just going to die to +2 Gyarados. And so at this point, the game's kind of over. So that crit was definitely unfortunate for my opponent. And let me talk for a little bit about what would have happened if that crit hadn't occurred. If I hadn't crit the Amoonguss, it would have been able to use Giga Drain or some other grass attack to break my sub. I would have been able to two-shot it. He probably could have then come in with the Seismitoad, tanked one of my stabs, knocked me out with the Earthquake. And then the situation is that he has his Charizard, his Celesteela, his Thundurus, and a Seismitoad at around 20% left, versus my 5 remaining mons. I think that matchup's one where I'm heavily favored to win. Between my Tapu Koko having no real switch-ins on my opponent's part, and also the fact that I could still get screens up and set up and sweep with my Zygarde, there are a lot of things that would have to go horribly wrong for me to have lost to that point, but certainly the differential would have been a lot closer, and it wouldn't have just been the sweep that ended up happening. So I'm glad it happened now in the regular season and not in playoffs, because I don't want a match to be decided like this. But in any case, the rest of the game is just kind of this Mega Gyarados doing what it does best and running through my opponent's team. The Celesteela not being able to break its sub, and I will just be able to clean up, because the only thing that can break my sub is going to be that Seismitoad. He sends in the Charizard, but even bulky Charizard doesn't survive a +2 Waterfall from Mega Gyarados. Seismitoad is able to tank a hit and knock out my sub with Earthquake, but I'm able to then just clean up with Waterfall. One of the reasons that Mega Gyarados had such the potential to sweep in this match is because the Prankster Thunderwave doesn't affect Dark types. Very sorry about the hacks, but the Celesteelas are able to pick up the 6-0 sweep with Mega Gyarados. Looking forward to seeing this team again in playoffs, hopefully without the hacks. But in any case, that is going to be all for today. This is Non-Zero. I will see you guys later. Peace.